Everybody, welcome to the Tortured Man Mancast, episode 16. What's Crackalaken? So today, because our last two is about the justice system, and they got pretty deep, and we got a little frustrated about certain things because one of the great things about Chad and I, if you're a routine listener to our show, is you know that we can personally save America, and they won't let us do it, and we get very frustrated about that. So we're doing What's Crackalaken, which in our ease just means we're just going to smoke a bunch of shit and see what the hell falls out. And we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. But since I bring it in, Chad gets to start it off, and we'll see what he's got to say out the gate. Have at it, bro.
So we're not saving the world tonight? Hold on.
We're always saving the world, bro.
Take my cape off.
There you go.
Put it over here real quick. All right. So since we're not doing that.
If you learn to fly without your cape, you'll fit in a lot better.
So tonight we bloviate.
Yes. On anything.
All right. Fair enough. Real quick, just a little bit of updating for anyone who might give a shit, who might tune into this podcast. We are now on Spotify, by the way. The Tortured Man podcast. Just type in the Tortured Man podcast. You'll be able to see we have at least a dozen episodes on there now. And it's a podcast platform, so we're kind of just rocking with just the audio over there, which is fine. And I've come to like it, just the audio. But nonetheless, we are also on Twitter. If you haven't heard before, the Tortured Man, at the Tortured Man on Twitter. And we will be expanding to other platforms again soon. But I just realized that I have a sign right here that says, "Stop saying and I'm going to try to stop saying because my buddy Matt has said to stop saying So here we go.
All right.
Your input is welcome.
I hope you're listening to this, Matt. And know that I say this with all the love in my heart. I'd rather you quit smoking cigarettes than chat stop saying How about that?
Wait a second. This is not an intervention podcast, Edward.
I'm saying that because I want the motherfucker to live. I love you, Matt.
Actually, Matt stopped smoking cigarettes, by the way.
Did he really?
Boom.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. I don't care what else he's smoking. Well, congratulations, Matt.
Oh, he doesn't really. I don't think he even really smokes anything. So
you might want to rethink that one. So, first thing that I'm going to bring up, other than Matt, is Amanda Nunes over the weekend defended the title, destroyed her opponent, and then retired. And if she sticks to her retirement, I want to say for anybody that is listening to me that I say often that I do not believe in the GOAT because I think there's too many people that qualify and the argument is stupid. But in the UFC, the argument could easily be made that Amanda Nunes is the greatest UFC women's fighter of all time, including Ronda Rousey. She's proven it in the ring. Her record is 27-4. And the ones that she lost were barely. And she has been dominant. And I think the reason she's walking away is the money in Hollywood and other places is coming at her in such dollar values that continuing to get punched in the face probably seems kind of absurd at this point after 31 professional UFC fights. But if she stays retired, I wish her all the best. And it has been a pleasure to watch you fight. You are an amazing human being.
Yeah, hats off to Amanda Nunes. She is a monster, and she's been a staple, really, in the women's on the whole side of the women's side, but in her
she's destroyed them all. Certainly. I mean, Holly Holmes, who destroyed Ronda Rousey, and Cyborg, she beat that bitch's ass, man. Like she was nothing when no one thought she could get beat. And Amanda Nunes not only destroyed her once, but destroyed her twice.
True story.
So yeah, she's the real deal. And that new other young girl they have, whose name is escaping me, who seems to be the future. She's very young. It's probably going to be her time now. She'll probably step up.
Fair enough.
I wish I could remember her name. I hate when I do that.
Misha Tate. I mean, who are you? Who? It depends on. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of.
She's a young
too many
girl.
chicks.
She's also Brazilian, like Nunez is. And everybody thought she was going to beat Nunez, and she didn't. Damn it! I'll look it up. I'll look it up. I'll find her, and then we can go on. But so you can pick it up from there for me.
All right, so I don't have anything. All right, folks. So what we're doing tonight is we are riffing on just random shit that we've seen this week. And I didn't have anything randomly ready for UFC. So
okay,
I am going to either talk about something else or wait for Edward to deliver here. In the meantime, we haven't gotten into UFC a lot on the Mancast, but we are fans. I think the biggest problem with not being able to do it on the fly is that there are so many ardent and like crazy fans of the UFC. If you start just saying shit about the UFC that's incorrect, they're going to be mad.
So Juliana Pena is her name.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So Pena. Okay. So she's an absolute beast. Fair enough.
She is. And she is the future, but she's very young. She's only 21 years old.
Yes. Amazing, remarkable. Absolutely. But again, I'm probably the last guy that's going to sit here and like talk to you about the UFC on any sort of like manner where I feel like I'm an authority. But I do agree with you. I think she's going to be the next star, the next one that takes the mantle. And especially now that, some of the, the other stars have stepped down.
So. She lost to Nunez last year. And I remember thinking when they were going into that fight that she's just too young yet, but she's been so dominant that the only step forward for her was to, take on the best female fighter in the world. And she just wasn't quite ready for it yet. She was only 20 years old, right? This girl's record up until that was undefeated, got herself into a world championship fight at 20. Who does she think she is? Brock Lesnar? I mean, what the hell? And so, but Nunez has nothing left to prove. She's beat everyone, right?
Yeah.
She's been dominant for a long time, and she can cash in. I mean, if she can make that switch and she can act, she's looking at making $5-10 million a film in a few years. There's no amount of she probably didn't make $10 million in the UFC after 31 fights, and she could probably make that for a single film. So I don't blame her for making this decision. Actually, even Dana White said that he was not even remotely surprised that he thought this was coming.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But what's Dana White up to today? Any idea?
Probably hoping somebody slaps somebody in the face somewhere.
Making a slap fight? Is he making a slap fight?
I tell you,
or is he having a slap fight with his wife in a mezzanine somewhere?
I saw that, man. I think she won.
Oh, she's gonna win some way, in some form or fashion, for sure.
They're my guess is they're going to stay together. Look. In no way, shape, or form should obviously that have occurred. But if that's in your mind, in anybody's mind, if what happened there in your mind makes, I'm talking about our general audience, makes Dana White a douche, then you haven't been paying attention. That guy's been a fucking douche the whole time.
Fair enough.
He's not, to me, he's not a very likable guy. He's arrogant as fucking hell. He's not a professional fighter, but he acts like he is one. And he bullies people all the time, and he underpays his fighters. As far as promoters go, he does the UFC's bidding very, very, very well, and he has made them an enormous amount of money. But with the very few exceptions of your Conor McGregors and your Brock Lesnar's and your Amanda Nunez's, these people aren't getting paid, no matter how good they are. And it's bullshit to me.
Well, yeah, you're right. They're getting paid, but it's kind of a pittance for what they're doing. But then I look at some of my favorite fights that I watch on the internet are this thing called Street Beefs. Have you seen this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're just, it's just like a ring in somebody's backyard and people are showing up and they're going at it. And you can either box.
It's Fight Club. It's Fight Club.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the only rule of Fight Club, Chad?
Well, this doesn't have that rule. Like they're allowed to put it on YouTube.
The rule is you don't talk about Fight Club.
I know, but this is different because you're allowed to broadcast it on YouTube.
Well, sure.
The same way we do.
I didn't say you couldn't broadcast. I didn't say you couldn't broadcast. I said you can't talk about it.
Well, I'm not in the club, so I'm going to talk about it.
You should. I've seen some of these fights. Most of them are the guys really aren't all that great of fighters.
It's very mediocre, yeah.
But when somebody connects with some of those wild haymakers, it's devastating, dude. It's like watching Jim Miller in a bar fight, right?
Right. It's like
brutal. Boom.
and sometimes though, there's like people you're like they're standouts, and you're like, oh shit, that guy's really trained, you know. And you get to see them just absolutely walk through someone. But what you never see is like 120-pound person fighting a 300-pound person, right?
Well,
there are stipulations because otherwise it would be ridiculous.
Who was that giant dude who ended up in the UFC? What was his name?
Kimbo Slice?
Yes. Could you imagine throwing a 175-pound dude in a backyard fight with Kimbo Slice?
Oh, that guy was a monster.
He was
an absolute savage.
The worst fight I ever saw in my whole life was him in an octagon against another dude. Dude, it was so. George and I watched it. We were literally laughing. These guys worse. I'd have rather saw that. They were both gassed out in about a minute. They literally laid on the ground hugging each other. They didn't even want to get up when the ref was forcing them to. Oh my God, it was horrible.
Yeah. Terrible. No technique, just brawlers. You know, just backyard brawlers. And they tried
to train him up, but Kimbo Slice was a gangbanger. That's what the fuck he was. A very giant one.
Yeah, who also like knew how to stand in.
Oh no,
and knew how to lay it down. Like
the guy could fight. I'm not taking that away from him. But there's a difference between guys who have taken classes and tried to learn some techniques and fighting a professional fighter.
Yeah. He was never UFC level.
Look, I did a lot of combat sports and did all that kind of stuff too. And I know how to handle myself. I'm not fighting a pro, bro. No way in hell. Especially not now because I'm too old for that shit. But even when I was in my 20s, I wasn't going to fight a pro. They would have destroyed me.
Not only am I not fighting a pro, I'm not fighting Kimbo. I'm not fighting anybody below him.
I'm willing to fight. I'll take on a fight in the octagon with Conor McGregor, so long as he's dead. If he's dead, I am in. If he is alive, and I mean on life support alive, I am not getting in the ring.
Yeah,
he could be on a gurney with IVs, and they're telling me he's brain dead and in a coma. I'm still not getting in a fight with him because he probably just his reactions will probably automatically beat me. Because
just a twitch.
Well, I like to bust his chops.
Like a snake.
Because I bust Colin's chops. I think he's way overrated. But
because you call him Colin and his name's Connor.
I do that on purpose. So
I know. And you always have.
And I didn't mean to say Colin. I meant Colin. Colin McGregor But here's the deal. That guy would destroy me in about 5 seconds flat. I mean, there's just no two ways about that. There's just no. It's like the old when Tyson was heavyweight champion. Guys would always be like, yeah, for $5 million, I let him punch me in the face. Why? You'll be in a coma for the rest of your life. What are you talking about?
Right.
What would be the point in having $5 million if you're in a coma for the rest of your life? Or he kills you. Or he breaks your neck and you're paraplegic. Keep your money. I'm good. I don't need Mike Tyson punching me in the face.
That's like McGregor got beat by Khabib, and it's like
badly.
Well, but who wouldn't? Like, and tell me who? Yeah, badly in the long run, but he put up a fight, a way bigger fight than I would with Khabib.
You're not a professional fighter.
I mean, true, but I don't care if I was.
Khabib is remarkable. For a guy who said 10 minutes ago, you don't know much about the UFC, you sure know a lot about it.
I'm just not an expert, so I'm saying.
Well, so here's the difference between Conor McGregor and Khabib. I don't really personally have an issue with Conor. The things I don't care about the trash talk and all that. None of that bothers me. But throwing that sign through the window and literally putting innocent people at risk and at harm was bullshit. Punching a 72-year-old man with his back turned to you sitting at a bar and sucker punching him when you're a world champion fighter, that's bullshit to me, right? That's what pisses me off about Conor McGregor. Bringing notoriety to his sport, however, I got no issues with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But right I just don't like the way that he has managed some of the things. He allows his temper to get the better part of him, and then he makes really stupid. I mean, the guy had to do 100 hours of community service and was on probation for chucking that sign through that bus window, right?
Right.
But the man is legitimate. There are not. I think he's overrated only because he's lost more than he should have. However, that doesn't mean that in his real prime, when he was holding two belts at the same time, you can make the argument in that moment that he was pound for pound the best fighter in the world. And I don't care if you have that for 1 second or 1 year. It doesn't matter to me. You hold that title at all, you're a bad mofo, period.
Yeah, he had the champ, but here's the thing, like you're not wrong either, because
I never am.
If you're No, wait, no, you're wrong. No, but I mean, if you're able to do that and you're able to run your mouth and like be the biggest thing ever, and sell a shit ton of everything,
right?
Whether it's yours or the tickets to the UFC or anything else, like, but the problem is, like, the reason why you don't respect him as a fighter is because he's almost spent more of his energy on his persona than he has on winning the belt. Yeah.
And so, and I know in the fight game, it's a little different than other sports, but anybody who's overly brash, Conor McGregor, when he was the pound for pound number one guy by all measurements, like I said, 1 second, 1 month, 1 year, it doesn't matter. If you're there, you're there. And, but how about show a little bit of humility when you lose to someone? Even when Khabib beat him thoroughly. Sure, he put up a fight, but he lost that fight on every scorecard. He didn't win a single round at all. He was dominating. How about show just a little bit of humility? Instead, what did he do? He went into the press talking about how he wanted to kill fucking Khabib's wife. He wanted to rape her and shit like that. That's insanity. What are you doing?
Right.
Shut up.
Well, consider this. I think that Dana White and McMahon,
Vince McMahon,
Vince McMahon,
WWE.
I think they're kind of homies.
They are, for sure.
And I think that Vince has taught things to Dana, and I think that's trickled down. And I think that Conor McGregor has been a perfect heel in a lot of ways.
I think he's going to the WWE too when he decides to retire.
And he's gotten paid for it. And I think there is a lot to be said for the fact that, some guys play the heel, some guys play the hero. And, look at, is it Covington, Colby Covington? Like the guy always does the MAGA hat and like the Trump shit.
Yep.
That's obviously a big persona. He's playing a heel, he was.
Right. Gets him
but
attention.
He also got popular for it. Yeah. So a lot of these guys are just doing like
the difference is
a wrestling persona.
But the difference is the WWE, while these are really great athletes and they take these bumps generally for real, it has a scripted outcome. And these guys are playing a part where they're supposed to be a heel. In reality, if a professional wrestler is playing the heel and he's talking shit on the other guy, in the real world, when they're off WWE television or internet, they don't continue the act, right? And that's so Conor going to the press after losing, he should have had some humility. He should have said, hey, I lost.
Some of these guys are always on, and I think some of the wrestlers were too.
Well,
apparently Covington's not.
I agree. The old school wrestlers, they did what they refer to as kafabe, where they stayed in character when they were in public, right. So that you would believe it more. But
right.
With the internet and everything else, it's long past those days. Everybody knows it's fraudulent. Because back in those days, you take a guy like that classy Freddie Blassie, somebody that was so vilified and hated so much, he got stabbed with penknives and shit like that, like 30 some times in his career from people sitting in the audience because they thought that he was that evil dude. Like the Iron Sheik, people did horrible stuff to him when he would go to the ring, because that was a guy who was, he loved America more than most. He was an Iranian Olympic medalist, right? He was there when the fall happened. He hated what had happened to his country. He loved his country, but he hated its government, and he came here for freedom, right? But here he played, and when he first got here, he didn't play the heel Iranian guy. That didn't happen until he got to the WWE, and the whole Iranian thing was really crazy. And then that's when he adopted that persona, and it made him millions and millions of dollars.
If you get a chance, anyone that's watching this, if you get a chance to go and watch the Joe Rogan interview with the Iron Sheik, please, by all means, do. It's amazing.
Oh, it's great.
Any of the interviews with the old wrestlers.
And actually, go if you have Netflix, go on Netflix, go to, categories, go to documentaries. And there's a documentary on the Iron Sheik that is absolutely fantastic.
Right.
And he just died recently, week before last.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
He was 81 years old.
Damn. Well, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah. He had a great life, man. He did real well.
Let me get to 80 and I'm not even like doing the shit he did,
Right. This guy actually wrestled matches in his early 70s.
Wow. What a beast.
Thing about pro wrestlers is they never retire. They're always still there somehow. Like Steve Austin was and fought in WrestleMania just 2 years ago at 55 years old.
Well, it's such a grind mentality, man. You're a grinder. That's what you do.
That's all. Yeah, it's like being in a carnival, right? I mean, it's just a way of life that nobody can understand unless they're in that way of life.
Right. It is very much like being in a carnival.
Yeah. Yep. These guys are on the road 250, 300 days a year. It's crazy.
You're a spectacle.
And now, because Vince McMahon and the great promoter that he is, it's worldwide. They go to Japan. They go to Saudi Arabia. They go to Africa. They go to Australia. They go all over Europe. They're everywhere.
Right.
It's crazy.
Hell yeah.
But good on Vince McMahon. He took a regional promotion and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar business.
Huge. It's just insane. Like I had no idea until like I heard other people talk about it. Cause when I was a kid, I was a wrestling fan, but I haven't really kept up with it. And I just kind of figured, the way Alf or E.T. or, all kinds of things that went by the wayside when I was a kid. I just figured wrestling had gone by the wayside. Nope. It's fucking huge,
It's
man.
massive.
It's massive.
And it is fun to watch.
And the events are just like these huge stadiums full of people. And man, it's amazing. So for that reason alone, like it's worthy of attention.
Well, think about this.
Yeah.
The largest indoor crowd for any event in the history of the world is to watch a WrestleMania. It's just the truth.
That's amazing.
It is amazing because they're massive. Like the UFC wishes they could sell out a stadium of 100,000 people to watch a UFC fight, but they can't. They wish they could. Yeah. They can't. They do most of their fights in places like Vegas or Madison Square Garden, where the max live crowd is going to be around 20,000 people. Vince McMahon had an indoor crowd of 103,000 people for a WrestleMania.
That's insane.
That's crazy, man. That's a Super Bowl. That's people going to the Super Bowl, right? It's nuts. Vince McMahon is in modern times. He is P.T. Barnum reinvented. Screw Don King and professional boxing in the UFC. None of those guys can promote and put people in front of a TV or in a live audience like Vince McMahon can for the WWE. No one can.
He's a genius. He's a genius about building a storyline. He's a genius about just keeping your viewership.
Now,
somehow he can always build a story.
Now, this is something you may not know, but you drew a line towards it when you said about Vince McMahon and Dana White know and like each other. The UFC and the WWE just merged a couple of weeks ago.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I assumed it would happen.
But I
didn't know it did.
Yep,
I had not heard this.
It is done. Vince McMahon's still going to run the WWE and Dana's still going to run the other side, but they are now all officially owned by the same corporation.
Holy shit.
And Vince McMahon is getting old now, so he's going to be, I'm sure, handing it over probably to the wrestling ex-wrestler that everybody knows as Triple H. His real name is Paul Levesque. And he is married to Vince's daughter, Stephanie, who is basically the functioning CEO of that corporation for some time now.
Right.
And Triple H is in charge of their NXT division, and he is also just overall in charge of the wrestlers. He's an executive president of development and those sorts of things. But when Vince was on a hiatus for a good long time because of some legal trouble he was in and some other things, and of course doing this merger, Triple H took over for about a year and their numbers went up.
Well, is he better or worse than Quadruple H?
Nobody's better than Quadruple H except Quad H.
I don't know much about wrestling these days, but I do know this. It's a monster. And I didn't know it was such a monster.
It is. It's huge.
And I'm, because of that, because I've been enlightened about this, I would love to go to an event. Now I'm like, okay, well, shit, I didn't realize this was such a big thing. So when can I go see this? I would love to go to a live event at this point.
So there is the WWE's competition. It's called AEW Wrestling, which stands for All Elite Wrestling. And they are pretty incredible. They have huge stars, just like the WWE does. Not quite as established for obvious reasons, but they are owned by the Khan family, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
And they do what are called house shows in Jacksonville every single week.
Okay.
And they record live from Jacksonville. They have 2 weekly shows. One show is on the road and the other show is filmed right in Jacksonville. It's a huge theater, amphitheater style indoor
And they have a ring and
Send
shit,
me
and they're
into
wrestling.
yeah.
All right.
Television cameras, the whole crew, the whole 9 yards.
Are they going to be doing this shit when I'm down there to see you in August?
They do it on Mondays. And you're leaving on Monday.
Ah, well, what time?
Excuse me.
Maybe
What
we can
time on
squeeze
Monday?
that in.
They do it in the evening. It's live.
Son of a bitch.
It's live. It's not recorded.
All
It's
right.
live.
All right, we're gonna miss it.
And
so.
we've run in. I've seen some of the wrestlers when we're down there, because
Nice.
around that stadium are a lot of really cool bars, like all stadiums have, and those guys go to the games too.
Sure.
So that whole complex there, the baseball field is there for the AAA baseball team. The football stadium is there. The practice field is there. The theater for the concerts and for the wrestling is right. Everything's right there.
Nice.
It's a really cool compound. The stadium just is old and needs a lot of updating. He tried to get for Jaguars fans who don't know, Tony Khan had a great idea to take over an old shipping yard. Forget how many, it was like 40, 50 acres, whatever it was. And had a great plan. He was going to transform the whole thing, bring in hotels, high-end shopping, new stadiums, make just kind of like they did at the new Meadowlands and they did in Philadelphia with the Link and Citizens Bank Park, right? They just turned the whole thing into this massive complex of just fun till your daddy takes the T-Bird away, with the shopping and interaction with the professional athletes, and you could get package deals and go do all this crazy stuff. And that's what he wanted to do. And then, of course, hotels, jobs. And of course, the Jacksonville City Council told him no, because his plan was too good and it would help the city. So we can't have that going on.
Oh, fuck's sake.
It's crazy.
Well, that's shocking. Yeah. Well, as far as here we go again. As far as hold on. As far as
you can't say anymore because Matt quit smoking.
Agreed. Maybe I'll just start smoking. And instead of saying I'll just go. So anyway, shit. Do you think that the NFL is going to expand into London yet? Are you considering this? Because
I hate the idea personally. It takes too long for players to recover. When two teams, let's say the Jaguars and the Chiefs, are going to play each other in London. Well, when they go over there, when they come back after that game, they automatically get a bye week. That's the way they schedule it, so that they have time to recover from all that travel.
Right.
If they put a team over there, they can't go back and forth. And if they put a team over there, they're going to come and do half their games here and half their games over there. That's decidedly unfair to everyone. So I don't know exactly how they would pull that off. I just don't know how they would do it.
They certainly want to.
And I think it's very easy to sell out a game if it's only going to happen once a year. Mm-hmm. Try selling out a game when you have a couple of teams over there trying to sell out 8 or 9 games every year.
Okay, but I feel like the Saudis can get it done. They have enough money to make whatever they want happen.
But Saudis don't. But the Middle Eastern people, it's soccer. That we're not even playing football in the Middle East because nobody will show up to see it.
They cannot wait to invest in the NFL.
My guess
that would be an expansion. They've been trying to do it here. They're going to wait until first. Well, fair enough. But hey, speaking of this, let's talk about Live Golf. Let's talk about
they were just absorbed with the PGA.
Let's talk about how these like big high level golfers could have taken this huge bundle of money. And they said no in order to save the PGA. And then the PGA said, thank you. And by the way, we're going to get in bed with those people that you said no to.
Yeah.
So thanks.
So if you're one of the golfers who is talking shit on Live right now, if you're Phil Mickelson, you're thinking, I am the smartest golfer that ever lived because I still have this enormous contract that the PGA still has to fucking honor, even though that live doesn't even exist anymore because that's part of the deal. And I can still win tournament money if I win.
They paid money up front though, and they offered the likes of Tiger $800 million.
Yeah, he said no.
And they offered Rory like $500 million.
He said no.
And he said no.
Yeah.
But they didn't just automatically say no. I don't expect. I'm assuming that they went to, PGA execs and they said, "Hey, I'm looking to bail here." And they said, no, please, we'll ride it out. We will beat them out. And then a year later, they were like, "Sorry, but we're going to just go ahead and get in bed."
Well, but Live Golf entirely changed the PGA forever. Before Live Golf started, the Masters,
which isn't bad.
The Masters, the biggest of them all. The payout for winning was around $5 million. Now it's $21 million in just 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
So they're actually paying these guys in accords with other sports. The reason that Live was started was because the golfers, if you're a PGA golfer, to go to a tournament that starts on Thursday, the Thursday to Sunday, there's 4 rounds. To get to that tournament, say you're in Washington State, the tournament is in Georgia. You have to pay for your travel. You have to pay for your hotel room. Every golfer from Rory and Phil and Tiger all the way down to Joe friggin' Blow. It doesn't matter. You still have to get there. You have to pay for everything out of your pocket. And then if you don't make the cut, you don't get any money at all, period. Right. That's what they were complaining about. And I don't blame them.
Well, I mean, that would make a much better tournament. It would make a much better scenario if everybody was, taken care of at least.
Well, at least some. So, but this deal that they just made with Live now does do all that. So Live served its purpose.
There you go.
They got the PGA to make changes that they said that they would never do. And so I think it's better for everybody because I didn't like the way that the PGA shunned Live. It wasn't the other way around. They didn't want guys contracted to Live playing in their tournaments. So you were taking some of the best players in the world out of the equation. And that's idiotic.
Right.
Even if they were Live players, what difference does it make? If you're if you're a professional tennis player and your tennis club isn't the same as the other guy's tennis club, you still get to play with each other. It's just silly that and that's the elite, that elitism of the PGA is what they were trying to break through. The PGA, thanks primarily to Tiger Woods and Big John, who I love, that guy, changed golf forever, just as much as Tiger, because they made golf accessible to every kid in a ghetto and every kid in a white trash trailer court and made the PGA accessible to them. They took an audience.
Daily sucking heaters and
Big John. But they took an audience of, I mean, like a Masters audience of, say, 5 million people watching the final round to 20 million people. They changed everything. The PGA got filthy rich. Their revenues were coming in massively higher. They were charging almost like World Series and NBA Championship Series ad revenues and stuff like that. And they weren't sharing it with the players. And the guys who didn't make the cut for that same Masters didn't get paid anything. So the PGA was getting rich, and they were it. And Greg Norman, the great Australian golfer,
when you're the only game in town.
Yeah. Right. And Live changed all that. Damn. The NFL, who was completely resistant to free agency, changed their mind once the USFL came along.
Right. Absolutely. And
changed everything.
It did. And let them get too fancy and somebody will come along again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And so, but golf in particular, because it is a super elite sport, generally speaking. And even though they open the game up to a lot of people that otherwise would never be inclined to it, those people are watching. They're probably never going to participate because if you live in the ghetto or you live in a white trash trailer park, you're probably not going to get a set of golf clubs and go to your public course either way.
Yeah, it
You're
doesn't work like
watching
that.
it on television because you can identify with somebody that's there. And Big
Right.
John identified with everyday Americans, and Tiger Woods identified with minority communities. And they more than tripled their audience. And it has held steady, even though these guys are waning, they're older, and they don't even compete that often. And still people are turning in numbers that they never saw before they showed up.
Yeah, they broke barriers.
They did. They broke through. Absolutely.
And that's good shit.
It's
good shit all around. It's good for the sport.
It's good for everybody.
Good for the culture.
It really is.
It's good for everybody.
And by the way, I applaud the PGA in a short period of time, just a couple of years, realizing that there has to be a better way, and we have some culpability here, and let's try to fix this. And worked with Liv and their executives and the players that were under contract and came to an agreement. And they did it pretty quick.
Right.
So that's good for everybody, and it makes the game better and more enjoyable to watch because now the top 10 players will be at every top tournament every time, which makes it better.
Which is the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and you know what? Yeah, it's questionable how it all happened, but in the long run, I like competition.
Sure.
I don't like monopolies. And
I always want to see the best.
I think it's gonna make it better.
I always want to see the best to come down to it. When I watch the Super Bowl, I'm hoping that I'm seeing the best two teams in the NFL. That doesn't always happen, but last year it most certainly did. And it was one of the best Super Bowls I ever watched in my life. And if I'm going to watch a fight, I don't want to necessarily watch two guys with scrub records who will never break into the top 10 or fight for a championship. I'm not interested in watching that necessarily. And I'm never interested in soccer because it's a stupid sport. And
unless it's the women's team getting obliterated.
People need to know when we're joking and when we're not. And what I just said about soccer, I meant that. I'm not joking at all. It's boring as shit. And the only people who flop worse than professional basketball players, which is unwatchable now, those guys make soccer players look even worse.
The flopping makes it hard.
Oh my God. I've seen guys in soccer literally throw themselves on the ground and nobody's even within 3 yards of them. It's like, what? Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I'll say this before I transition. It is hard to play soccer. Like it is a freaking.
I've played it.
You better have some endurance, homie. Mm-hmm. You better be able to run because you're going to run.
Soccer's one of those games.
Run.
Soccer's one of those games that when I was younger, I didn't mind playing it, but I can't watch it. Hey, look, I love baseball and I love to play baseball. Watching it on TV is mind-numbingly boring.
Same. Yeah,
I can't do it.
Same with soccer.
But
it was fun when I was a kid. Can't watch it.
But if I can
go see it live though.
Right. Oh yeah, better live, especially if you're watching
like hockey.
Yeah, hockey's way better live. First off, okay, this is a question to our audience. I need somebody to explain this to me because we're talking about golf and now we're segueing into hockey. How can the cameraman at a PGA golf tournament follow a white ball coming off the head of a golf club at 160 miles an hour or so?
Right.
Go through the air on a cloudy day, 300 yards away, through white ball, white clouds, and they can follow it pinpoint accuracy.
Totally
but they can't follow a puck on white ice that's black.
That's a good question.
I can't figure that out.
Yeah.
The only time they scored in hockey is because you saw the light go on behind the goal. Right. That's it. But if you're there live, you see everything.
Right.
So that's why I love hockey. I love watching it. It just TV ruins it for me.
Yeah, I guess it's just tight enough. They can't. It doesn't really.
So for me, soccer doesn't transcend to television for me. It just doesn't. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is because while there's a lot of action on a soccer field constantly, the ball is what's in the frame, and you're not seeing a lot of what's going on. But if you're there live, you get to see everything that's going on. It's kind of like an NFL game. NFL games, what they learned a very long time ago, instead of following the ball, they zoom in and zoom out. They give you the things that they think are the most compelling that are going on. Oftentimes, a play will be snapped, and they'll come in say, a defensive end against an all-pro tackle instead of just only watching the quarterback who has the ball, because he's going to throw it. They give you the thing that's probably the most compelling thing that's going on, go to a wide angle, allow you to see what's going on. And when you see the replay, you get it from 10, 12 different angles because they have all of them. Soccer's a bigger field. They can't cover all of it. I don't know what all the problems are, but it just doesn't transcend to TV, just like hockey doesn't for me. Basketball is like the perfect made TV sport, but the NBA's become so unwatchable because they're just a bunch of flopping sissies. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's kind of
and
bad.
I'm pretty sure that's getting rigged all the time. If you watch any NBA game, and I dare anybody to tell me this is wrong. In the first quarter, they get to play. The refs let them have at it. And by the end of the first quarter, if, say, the Celtics are smacking the hell out of the Sixers after the first quarter, 30-5.
Okay.
They're up 25 points. By the end of the second quarter, when they go into halftime, I guarantee you they'll be down by 5-8. Because now they're going to start whistling every tiny little thing that they didn't before. They're going to keep sending guys to the free throw line for the Sixers so they can keep adding, getting points and getting points and getting points. Right. Then in the third quarter, they let them play a little bit again. And if things start to stretch out, even if that's before the end of the third quarter, they'll start to tighten it up because the whole idea is to have both teams with a chance to win with 2 minutes left in the game.
The refs throttle it, man.
They throttle the whole game. And it's annoying.
In every major sport.
It's
the
annoying.
Refs throttle the game.
Because it's all about revenues and audience control. Where we don't see that is in college sports. If one of the best basketball teams is, say, Duke, because they often are, and Duke is playing a team that's not so great, like, say, Pittsburgh University at that time, and they've been great, they've been bad, or Penn State, whatever, anybody, I don't care, pick a team.
Right.
If Duke beats them 127-5, that's the way it is, and nobody tries to change it. You just turn the game off because it's boring because there's no chance they can win. I get that.
Right.
But they don't control the game. And that's why you see such massively lopsided games in college football, where Alabama will roll up 80 points on a team.
Yeah.
Because they don't try to control it.
Right.
And Alabama routinely rolls up 60, 70 points on teams during the regular season.
It's kind of what they do.
Yeah. Georgia does the same thing now. There's a few teams that are at that level, and Ohio State, Michigan, the USC when they're good, but they're the elite teams. They're always doing that shit, but nobody gets in their way from doing it ever. And we've seen national championship games that are absolute mind blowing, just complete destruction of another team where teams are winning by 4 and 5 touchdowns and nobody's stepping in the way of it. And they used to do that in the NFL because remember the 80s and the 90s, the NFC laid waste to the AFC year after year, oftentimes by 21, 24, even up to 30 points, just blowing them out of the water. And nobody did anything about it. But as revenues went up and teams started to become more and players were demanding more money, they did what they could to keep the eyes on the game all the time. Keep it close, right. Keep it close, keep it close. And that's why we get all these piffy penalties. That's why we get all this weird shit happening all the time.
Well, hey, can I ask you a question or two about the used to be Skins?
Yes.
The football team.
The Washington football Commanders team.
I like the football team.
I prefer the football team over Commanders, I'll tell you that. Hopefully they change the name of this team again to something that's cool.
For God's sakes, you can do anything.
Even if they just go back to the Washington football team, that's preferable to me.
Would be better. But so anyhow, with Would you call Ron Rivera a defensive minded head coach?
Absolutely, because he was a NFL linebacker and a defensive
Right.
coordinator.
And you would call Eric Bieniemy a offensive minded guy, right?
I'd have to ask Andy Reid, but sure.
Well, he was a running back. He's been an offensive coach his entire
Eric
career.
Bieniemy was a great running back, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
Nebraska boy.
Right. So that should be a pretty good balance, right?
You think?
Yeah, you would think.
So what's the question?
The question is, do you think that a defensive minded coach holds back an offensive minded OC in the big moments?
That's a good question. If we're just going to look at recent history in the NFL, then the answer to that is yes, because
Especially now, right?
well,
Because it's such an offensive
name
sort of thing.
So over the last 23 years, we'll say back to 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Bill Belichick was a defensive coordinator, and he won a lot of Super
That's
Bowls.
a good point.
John Harbaugh was also a
Shit.
defensive coordinator. The Ravens won a couple of Super Bowls. So it's about 50-50, actually.
Yeah.
But in recent memory, it's Andy Reid. And of course, being offensive minded, I think from what in this particular case,
Mhm.
I think Ron Rivera, when he was in Carolina, he had a very dynamic offense because he allowed Frank Reich to run his offense the way that he saw fit. And he got the best out of Cam Newton that Cam Newton ever did.
Right.
So he's got a track record that he'll let him do it. The bigger question to me is Eric Bieniemy as good an offensive coordinator as some people think that he is, or is he just a product of Andy Reid himself? That's the question to me.
And from my observation, which could be completely wrong, I could be completely false, but from what I've seen, I believe that Bieniemy is not necessarily some sort of football genius who deserves a head coaching position, and I believe that his elevation to the OC position may not have been necessary, but Andy Reid's running the offense. I'm sorry.
Well,
If you think for a second that Andy Reid is not running the offense on the Chiefs, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
So the way I look at it, this is going to be very interesting this season for lots of compelling reasons, but under these auspices in particular, it's going to be very interesting to see. If the ex-Redskins would have been in the playoffs last year, if their offense was more dynamic, and if they actually had a quarterback. But they were as good as they were last year. They won their division the year before. They came in second to last in their division last year, even last, and still won, had a winning record. So that being said, they didn't go any further than they did the year before. They didn't improve. And some of that is because they don't really have a quarterback. We'll see what Sam Howell does this year, and we'll see how that starts to work out. If Bieniemy is who they say he is, the people who believe in him, if they're correct, he should be able to take this young quarterback and turn him into something and be able to win with him, and allow Rivera to primarily concentrate his efforts on defense and keep an eye on the offense. They should improve enough that they should be able to make the playoffs. If they do that, then it's a victory for everybody, because I think Rivera will be kept by the new organization that's going to own the Washington football team. Right. Another thing that'll happen is if they are correct, then there should be some law or lag in Kansas City because he's not there. I don't expect a major one, nothing that will be dramatic, but there should be some lag because of how dynamic he is actually supposed to be. My personal opinion is that Eric Bieniemy is a pretty smart guy and he's probably an okay offensive coordinator, but he's more Jason Garrett to me than Sean McVay.
Ooh, I like that. I think that's balls on, man. You nailed it. He is very much a yes man like Jason Garrett. Man, you nailed that shit. So, wow. So, caught me off guard with that. All right. So, here's the thing. As a Kansas City fan and somebody who listens to Kansas City sports talk radio, like, I tune into the local radio station, even though I live a long ways away. They talk about the fact that back when Bieniemy was the OC, there was actually a guy. He was a Ron. I can't remember his full name, but he was a DJ on the local sports talk radio show. They cut him loose because he gets a little crazy. But he's a black dude, and he was playing clips of Eric Bieniemy's press conferences, and he would play church music over it, and he would pretend like it was a sermon, and he would pretend like Eric Bieniemy was just like a televangelist, because he felt like Eric Bieniemy talked in nothing but cliche, and that Eric Bieniemy was fake, and he was basically painting him as a televangelist. And they eventually cut this guy loose. It was a black dude, and he annoyed me in a lot of ways too. Don't get me wrong, but they cut him loose because he was doing that shit.
That's funny.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Bieniemy does speak in cliche. Bieniemy never actually answers the question directly. It is always like this canned response, which I guess that's coach speak or whatever you want to call it. But if he's doing that shit in an interview, it's not going to fly, right? like they're going to try to throw something at you that catches you off guard, and when you come back to them with like, well, it's all about the X's and O's.
Right. Oh yeah. There's so many of, almost everybody is geared like that, right? Where they just these
Right.
pat talking points that they repeat over and over again.
Yeah.
John, it was so great listening to John Madden when he would call a game, because he would say the most obvious, Captain Obvious kind of things, right? Well, I got to tell you, Pat, this was a hell of a game. I really thought they'd get the running game going. They didn't. But I got to tell you, at the end of the day, the reason they lost is they didn't score as many points as the other team. No shit. Thanks, John.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Or like when they kick the football and it hits the upright, and he's like, you see, there's a couple kind of doinks. There's the inside doink where it bounces inside and it makes a point, and then there's the outside doink where it doesn't. Those are the two kinds of doinks.
And then there's the double doink where it hits the inside and falls down and hits the crossbar. Cherdunkin. So, so we're going to see with Bieniemy what happens here. I do think, even if he is Jason Garrett, because of his offensive mind, because fortunately for any Washington football team fan, is that even if all he knows is what he's absorbed from Andy Reid, and he can put that into place and get guys to believe in it, right, that should be enough to make the Washington offense precipitously better than it was last year.
Yeah, you would think.
And their defense is rock solid, so they don't have to worry about that.
Defense.
But
what about quarterback?
The problem for them, however, is that's the kid that they drafted 2 years ago, Sam Howell. He played in the last couple of games and played really well. So we'll see moving forward.
He's the guy.
We're going to find out, because he's going to start.
No.
And we're going to see for sure. They let Heineke go because of it. He's going to be the guy. They don't want anybody there to get in his way. They're going to give him his full shot, and we're going to find out if he can do it. Now, I watched the kid in North Carolina State. He's a baller. But does it transcend to the NFL? We're not going to know until we see it. I say that about most players, though. Do I think he's got the goods to do it? Sure. But anybody that's got the goods to be drafted by the NFL has got the goods to do it. The question is whether or not they will. That's all.
Right. Fair enough.
So we're going to find out if, however, and like again, Eric doesn't have to do a great job. He just has to do a good job. Just has to do Jason Garrett, because the idea is to get to the playoffs. That just improve the team. The downside for Washington in this particular case is they are clearly far and away in the toughest division in the NFC.
Yeah,
you could very well somebody in the NFC East is going to have a winning record but not go to the playoffs, just like last year.
Pop quiz: do you have a favorite rookie to see this year from the draft?
Oh,
yeah, I know that's a tough one because it's like oh shit, there's so many people we looked at.
So for me, most of them would be defensive players.
Right. Same.
Because I think they're going to be the best guys out of the gate. Offensively, if we're just looking, where are my notes here? Because I don't want to. It's been a while since we did
notes.
Since we did.
I'm going to just go ahead and say my favorite one to look at it, because I'm a homer for the Chiefs, is going to be Felix and Duke Uzama, the edge rusher out of K-State, and I think that he is going to be a starter. I think he's going to jump right in. I think that's why they didn't bring Frank Clark back. Frank Clark is in Denver now, which is hilarious. And I don't think the Chiefs need him, and that's why he's not there. So that's fine by me. But I think King Felix is going to be a beast right from the jump. And I think that George Karlaftis is going to take a step forward. So we're good on the edge. We also picked up a guy in the offseason. Who's the cat from the Jags we got? Gosh, I'm trying to remember what the hell that guy's
So
name was.
while you're trying to think of that guy's name, Bijan Robinson on offense, I can't wait to watch him play.
Yes,
I love running backs, and he's a true running back. He's a full-on running back, not a hybrid running back. I think he's going to be an impact player. I think he's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And the other guys that immediately jump out at me are Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. Those guys are going to be so destructive on defense. It's going to be fun. They're going to be first-day starters, and they're going to wreck some people, and it's going to be fun to watch them.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Now, for me,
totally agree.
Nothing to do with the rookies. For the Jaguars, Jarvis Landry, who had to sit out last year because of gambling issues, is a bona fide top 5 wide receiver in the NFL when he's playing. And I'm looking really forward to watching him play.
Fair enough. I can't wait to see these.
As a matter of fact, they believe in him so much that they're not even looking at D-Hop. They don't even care.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing like what does Bryce Young do? How about Anderson with the Colts? What's he gonna do? Some of these guys getting thrown right to the fire, and we're gonna find out right away what they can do.
The quarterbacks,
the quarterbacks. That's what I mean. Yeah, they're gonna get tossed right in, and they have no buffer.
Well, I still think, from my perspective, that they're both in the wrong system. They should be switched, and they do better. That doesn't mean they won't do well long term. They would have just done better faster. That's all. But we're going to find out. I think my concern, particularly for C.J. Stroud, is I don't think that offense suits him very well. And my concern has always been that Bryce Young is so undersized. So, and I don't mean just weight or muscle wise. Seeing over the offensive line of guys who are standing 4 to 6 inches taller than you is a difficult task. And
I,
so we'll see how they break that all out and how the offense serves him. The fact that his head coach is a 6'4" ex NFL quarterback who was a pocket passer doesn't seem like a great fit to me when CJ Stroud is exactly that guy.
well, I really poo-pooed you for a minute there about, the size of Young. And now that I'm after the fact, I'm like, kind of the closer we get to the season, I'm like, well, you got a point, man. He is freaking tiny.
He is. So he blew himself up to 200 pounds for his pro day. But after training camp is done, he'll be 185. He's going to be a 5'10" 185 pound quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's smaller than Kyler Murray.
Who is too small.
Right.
Yeah.
So CJ Stroud is just prototypical guy. He's definitely a pocket passer. He's not like he's not even like Josh Allen, even though he's close to that size. Josh Allen likes to move around a lot. Stroud's slow as fuck. He's got slow feet. But he's heady and he's smart and he's got a strong arm. We'll see what he can do. He doesn't fit a lot of offenses today, but I think he would have fit great. He would have fit great in Frank Wright's offense. I just don't get, but sometimes the head coaches and the GMs and the owners, they listen to the pundits a little too much. So we'll see who's right and wrong when it all shakes out. I hope, to be fair, I hope these guys are as good as the top guys that have been coming out for the last 5 or 6 years, because the NFL is far more engaging and far better when they have great quarterbacks in the NFL. And we haven't seen this great a quarterback play from so many different guys since the quarterback era of all quarterback eras, the 80s into the mid 90s, from that 83 draft. And here we are 40 years later with the 2023 draft, and it's history repeating itself with all these great guys that have been coming out over a short period of time. The Pat Mahomes and the Burrows and the Josh Allens and the Deshaun Jacksons and it goes on and on and on. I mean, Watson and Jackson. Mm-hmm. There's so many of them. That's great for the NFL. Herbert, right? I mean, Jesus, it never ends. When you could list 10, 12 guys off the top of your head and none of them are named Kirk Cousins, who was second in the NFL in total yards and third in Q rating. And he's not even on your tongue at all because he doesn't even matter compared to all these other guys who, by the way, are all 6, 8 years younger than he is. NFL's in good shape right now. Very, very, very good shape.
It really, really, really is. And there's we were talking earlier today about how there used to be an abundance in the NFC, and today it's like the AFC.
The AFC's way overloaded with great quarterbacks. I mean, just go through them. You got Josh Allen with the Bills. Obviously, Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. You got Joe Burrow. You got Justin Herbert. You got Deshaun Watson. And that's just the short list.
How about
there's still plenty more
your boy in the Jags?
Right. So now we got Trevor Lawrence, and then you can add in, you can add in Jackson with Baltimore, right? I mean,
of course
it doesn't end. They just keep coming, and that's good. And now with Jalen Hurts playing the way he is,
that'll bring everything up.
Two bona fide, what looks like legitimate quarterbacks in San Francisco, both of them 23 years old.
Yeah.
And then you look at the kid in Chicago who went to Ohio State. His name's escaping me. That kid's going to be good too if they could just protect him a little bit. Well, that's going to bother me. I can't remember his name. I'm looking that up real quick.
Yeah, it's man, why is that freaking escaping me right now?
Justin Fields.
I kept trying to say Jordan Love, but because it's J.
Justin
Fields.
Fields.
No, that's Green Bay. Yeah, Justin Fields.
Yeah, Jordan Love.
Kid's really good.
He's going to be great if they can protect him. Then you brought up Jordan Love. He is not in this conversation.
No.
I don't think he's ever making the transition.
Well, we'll see.
But
he
look,
has a chance.
now, even if you go to the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff was thrown away by the Rams and has completely resurrected his career. Watch the Lions this year. They're going to give Minnesota a run for their money and might even end up winning that Central Division. They're that good.
Possible. It's possible.
Their defense is
really good.
Great.
They're really good.
And Goff had his best year of his entire career.
Dude, he's not bad.
Not at all.
Hell,
he took the Rams to the Super Bowl. They lost. To be fair, they never should have beat the Saints in the playoffs because of that stupid idiot interference call. But
highest scoring game in like 50 years was the Rams versus the Chiefs, in which Goff got like 54 points and the Chiefs had 51. Then they won. Like the Rams won with Goff. 54, 56 or something crazy points.
But Goff is legitimate, and he gets lost in that shuffle because there's so many other legitimate guys.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, I'm sorry, Dallas. I'm not sorry. He's just Tony Romo 2.0. He's never going to win you a championship. Forget it. Now, the kid in D Jones, D-Rock, Daniel Jones is legit. That kid can play football, man. Danny Dimes is a baller. And the Giants, he proved it last year. He proved it. And I don't think he's going to slide back at all. I think that the Giants are in really good shape, and they have a legit look.
He's got the moxie, dude.
Eli was a great quarterback, and it didn't take them long to find another one. So good on them. I think they're going to be a much better team. That's why I say the NFC East is a beast, because from the Eagles to the Cowboys to the Giants to the Washington football team, all of them legitimately have a shot at making the playoffs. I don't think any of those teams are quite good enough to unseat the Eagles, but I'm going to go out and say that, like last year, 3 of those 4 teams will make the playoffs, possibly all 4 of them.
Hell yeah. I believe they will. It's tight.
Because they went to 7 teams now, so 4 could go from the same division for the first time ever, and they're the team that could do it. The division that could do it.
That's the division. And then there's a bunch of sucky ass teams in all the other divisions.
The Lions, I think, are good. I think Chicago's going to be better. Green Bay is on the downhill slide, and Minnesota is not going to go up or down. So I think the Central's got some good football going on. Minnesota doesn't scare me. The Lions are a team to keep your eyes on, though. They're legit, I think.
Fair enough.
And it's hard. I know most people are probably thinking I'm crazy because it's a fucking Lions, right? But even the Cubs won a World Series after 100 years. So Detroit really is that good. And they have a great coaching staff, awesome skilled players, and one of the best defenses in the NFC. They're legit. San Francisco, I think Seattle's going to be better. But they pretty much gave up on this year before it even started. Yeah. And the Saints, no.
Yeah, it's going to be back down to Frisco, Eagles.
They're the cream of the crop. They're the 2 best teams.
Yeah.
I think if Detroit plays San Francisco and steals a game from them, they could potentially take the Eagles on, but I don't think they could get past the Eagles. I think the Eagles, to me, are the best team in the NFC. And all they did was improve in the offseason. They're even better now.
Look out.
San Francisco, while they have 2 young stud quarterbacks, they have none that have proven anything over the long haul. Right. So there's still a lot of question marks for them, regardless of the talent they have on offense and defense. Do they really have a guy that can actually lead them through an entire 17-game football season? That's different than playing with no pressure on you for 4 games. It's entirely different.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. I think the AFC is more compelling because Kansas City is obviously the cream, because when you're the Super Bowl champions, you just are. But even in their own division, San Diego got way better in the offseason. They're scary. And they're legitimately
They're Los
going to push him.
Angeles now.
Denver, if by just the grace of God that Russell Wilson can play anywhere near like he played in Seattle, which on the record, I'm saying I don't believe he can. But if he does, Denver's going to be scary good. Your division is loaded. The Raiders are the team that now they got Jimmy Garoppolo. You never know what's going to happen. Well, he'll get injured and their season will go to shit. That's what's going to happen.
There you go.
Buffalo has their division pretty much locked up, or had. The Jets, however, now have Aaron Rodgers. So can Buffalo stave off they just made the playoffs last year, right? With no quarterback. What do you think they're going to do with fucking Aaron Rodgers? That's going to be frightening. They're going to be really good. The Jets are going to be. They had the number 2 defense in the NFL last year.
They're going to be a disruptor in the AFC for sure.
They're going to be good. And they have a legitimate Super Bowl winner, bona fide NFL first ballot Hall of Famer running the show with talent on steroids. They're a legitimate Super Bowl contender now.
They had top defense.
Yes.
They have the rookie of the year on defense.
Yes, they did.
They have a slew.
I had him in my fantasy football league. The kid's bank, dude.
They have the rookie of the year on offense, by the way.
They did. I had him. He was wide receiver.
With no Aaron Rodgers at the helm. Holy fuck.
Right. Without Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. They're going to be really, really good. Miami's fraudulent because anybody who thinks that Tagliavoa is I don't believe a Super Bowl champion NFL quarterback, you're sniffing glue or some shit. I think the AFC North division, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns are all going to be good this year. I just think that Joe Burrow is what separates Cincinnati now from those other teams. Lamar has to prove that he can do it in the playoffs. Burrow already has.
Talk to me about the Browns. What do you think? They're
loaded with talent.
Deshaun Watson's going to do?
Deshaun Watson did not forget how to play quarterback last year. After a year and a half off, that means nothing to me. With a full off season, Cleveland's going to be very good this year. Playoffs, they're going to make the playoffs is my guess. I see them winning 11, maybe 12 games.
Wow. Damn.
Look, Deshaun took a Texas teams to the playoffs routinely.
He's
with not much help.
Shit. He's so good.
He is. He's literally that last year that he played before all his trouble started. Pat Mahomes won the MVP. And if he wouldn't have, Deshaun Watson would have. So he's that good, right? When he is on the money, if this conversation was happening in 2021 and not 2023, we would be saying that Cleveland has a good shot at the Super Bowl simply because he was there. Fair now, enough. We got to pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think he's going to the Super Bowl this year, obviously. But Cleveland's going to the playoffs for the first time in a while. And I think he's going to do very, very well because he's still only 25 or 26 years old. He's going to be amazing and he's going to do well. Plus, if you look at that team, they have one of the best running backs in the NFL in Nick Chubb. They have great wide receivers and they have one of the best young tight ends in the NFL. And their defense is good.
Yeah. Did they keep Kareem Hunt too? I don't know.
No, they let Kareem Hunt go.
And it doesn't matter. They have Chubb.
So if Kenny Pickett can pick it up for Pittsburgh, they're going to be good too.
Fair enough. So that's a tight division, but I would say that
three teams potentially could go to the playoffs from there.
Hell yeah. And
Um,
you're totally right that, they're going to take a big leap forward, and Deshaun Watson is no bullshit. Like he's
no.
a legit
Well, look at
like
that division. They have Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrows are 3 of the 4 starting quarterbacks.
that's insane.
That's crazy.
What the hell, dude? Can you imagine like being
Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen are in the same division. Pat Mahomes is in the same division with Justin Herbert.
Well, no, you said wait, go back to what you said before that.
Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers.
No, not that conference or not that division.
Deshaun
Watson,
Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow are all in the same division.
And who's the fourth?
Kenny Pickett.
Can you imagine being that young bastard? That's what I was trying to go back to. So you're looking at all these guys, and granted, like they're young, they're not old,
no,
but they are proven.
Right. Kenny Pickett's only going into his second year.
And you're Kenny Pickett, and you just coming off your rookie year, and you're like, you're staring that in the face. That's what I was trying to get you to back up to.
Yeah, all those guys are NFL.
What a gauntlet. What a gauntlet Kenny Pickett is going through right now.
Yep. These guys, those other 3 guys have all been to the playoffs, have all won their divisions. They're all legit.
All savages, dude.
Yes, they're all legit.
Yeah.
And Kenny
Good
Pickett.
Luck, Kenny Pickett.
But Kenny Pickett, by the way, can be one of those guys.
Yep.
Because, I'm so tired of hearing, his hand's only 9.5 inches.
Whatever.
Okay. Hello, NFL guys who think they know what they're talking about. If you put an NFL football against a college football, the college football is shorter and fatter.
Right.
He was an All-American in college, slinging the ball around that was fatter with his 9.5-inch hands. Now he has a ball that's longer, more cylindrical, and his hand fits it better. And somehow that's a problem for him now. It's the most idiotic argument in football when people talk about hand size for quarterbacks. If your hand size is 4 inches because you're 8 years old and you're holding an NFL football, that's probably a problem. But Kenny Pickett hand is just fine. Thank you. He'll be okay.
Can you throw the ball or not?
And by the way, there's this guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or the audience has. His name's Drew Brees, and his hand was only 9 friggin' inches.
Yep.
And he threw for 61,000 yards.
Hall of Fame elite quarterback.
Right. Yep. It's silly. I just hate that argument about hand size. You know how to throw a football or you don't. And if you didn't know how to throw a football, regardless of your hand siise, you sure as hell wouldn't be in the NFL.
True story.
It's just dumb. It's like questioning somebody's, he's a slow running back. He rushed for 1,500 yards last year. Who cares if he's slow? What are you talking about? People like, this is what happens when you have too many talking heads and not enough space for them to talk in. They all just talk nonsense because they got nothing else to say. I dare anybody to watch Good Morning Football in the off season and make it longer than 10 minutes because it is retarded what they talk about. It's stupid. It is the dumbest thing on television because they don't have anything to talk about at all.
It's true.
Hey, Chad, that's what we're going to do today. If Iron Man was a football player, who would he be? It's just so dumb. I literally watched them do that.
I'm going to roll up my sleeve and I'm going to scream at them. I'm going to scream the whole time. Scream.
If your quarterback, Pat Mahomes, was a death metal guitar player, who would he be? It's just so silly. Stop it. Let's say that your wide receiver, let's just think about this for a minute. Would your wide receiver be Britney Spears or Christina Applegate? I mean, what?
It's become tantamount to the whole like disc jockey, like morning show guy. Like all of the ESPN and NFL network shows now are basically like you've just tuned into the local morning show and they're giving the zany zig bang, right? All the fucking contrite bullshit that you do not want.
Don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
So they actually I had Good Morning. I was flipping through channels, and this was a legitimate question. If you could pick any actor today, who should play John Madden if there was a movie about him? They discussed that shit. I turned it off after 15 minutes, and they weren't even done talking about it yet.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
Fucking balls, man.
I listened to, can't remember his name, the guy who does all their drafts.
Yeah,
he was one of the guys we went head to head with.
Yeah, that guy.
Anyway, that guy. He went on a 10-minute rant about how it should be Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell? Because Will Ferrell is 6'5" and thin, so he should play John Madden for sure.
Does not look like John Madden at all.
John Madden's fat.
Well, yeah,
like if you're gonna pick somebody to see me, I wish I would have been there because I would have chose Fred Flintstone, who is not only a fine actor but looks more like John Madden than Will Ferrell.
Do you know how to call Fred Flintstone? Because I don't know his number. Do you?
I do. It's 555.
I was thinking of like if he hadn't have died already, we would just call Andre the Giant. And we would just crop him so he looks shorter.
And they sound the same already.
He had that giant fucking head, though.
They sound the same already. Like there's marshmallows in their mouth when they're talking.
Madden had that massive head, dude. Massive head.
Then the next guy chose John Caliendo, the impressionist comedian, because he does a great John Madden. Except the problem is he's not an actor. Right. So I don't see how that would work out.
Yeah, it's just a comedian.
And the Burrows, the ex-wide receiver who's on that show, literally chose Elvis Elba, the British black actor, to play John Madden. So I'm done, right? So, this is what I mean. Do not watch Good Morning Football because it is so stupid. Now, when they get to the NFL season and they actually have something to talk about, it's far better than anything you're going to see on ESPN. Yeah. The difference, though, is, well, Good Morning Football is stuck talking about football only, whereas ESPN can segue into other sports during their season.
Right. Once we get into the season of football, it will no longer be a picture of Fonzie riding a surfboard and ramping a shark.
Oh. Fonzie, jump in the shark.
Yeah, the Fonz, dude.
So we were just going to do tidbits and Crackalaken, and we still managed to do one of our longest shows. And
hour and a half.
And we could go much, much longer. I'm sure of that. But we should probably try to do final words here. And this is, I'll go first on this one. Two things. I love talking about football. I hope everybody learned something, and I hope everybody turns into what's going to be a great football season. And I hope as we grow, please keep coming at us, keep sending us questions on anything, mind you. But when football season starts, we can really get into some stuff. By the way, really would like to start getting into, we're going to try to bring some experts on our show, like Jeff, and get into some cool shit coming up. Aside from that, some
criminologists as well.
I'd like to just say one thing, and then I'll leave it at that. It has nothing to do with what we talked about today. The dumbest thing of all the dumb things that our government has ever done is indicting Donald Trump for things they can't even indict him for. It's so absurdly ridiculous that it makes me want to punch babies in the face. I have no words for it. The only thing that I can say on the upside, and then I'll leave it, is that all the polling I've seen, even Democrats seem to be tired of this bullshit. I mean, general, not your big city, not your CNN watchers, just general at large people around the country are like, I'm done here. This is just garbage.
I can't help but every time I see one of these things come through my feed from NBC or CNN or any of these outlets, I can't help but respond by saying, "You got him this time." You got him this time. And I'm like a big old troll. I just can't help but say that.
Well, the absurdity of it is just out of control.
It's so stupid. So stupid. So anyway, we could do a whole episode on the stupidity of that. So I'm gonna shut the hell up and not go any further with that.
All right. So
with that, folks,
thank you all for listening. Please subscribe, hit the button. We appreciate everybody listening. And we will be back next week, and we will continue to do what we do best, which is shoot the shit about whatever we feel like.
Absolutely. And with that, later.